Shout out Big Steve.
Shout out Michael Bisman. Shout out Donald Trump, UFC Freedom. We're going to break it down top to bottom, make some money on this UFC card. We're officially in profit for the first time in 2026. Well, not the first time, but this card, I'm shooting this early, so this is a special show. I'm going to go off the odds on Sportsbet, which is one of the most popular bookies in Australia. They've limited me like 5 years ago, but I can still use the odds. And I have a couple of bets, and I'll lock in more bets when odds open up on other bookies. So we'll get into it. I'm really excited. This card reminds me of MVP, but disguised as UFC. There's a few squash matches, but good fights as well. Let's get into it. So the first fight, Steve Garcia versus Diego Lopes. They know what they're doing with this fight. This is opening the card for a reason. I just listened to an interview recently with Steve Garcia, and interviews or whatever, sometimes they mean completely nothing, and other times you can trust it. And Steve Garcia said, I know why they're opening with us. This is the first card on the White House. They know it's going to be fireworks. I'm not going to show the respect to Diego Lopes that others are, and someone is going to die here. Someone is going to get knocked out. So props to him. Diego Lopes is minus 200, and it makes sense. He's just fought for the title twice against Alexander Volkanovski. He's always up there as one of the best. His two losses are Alex and Evloev, who's next for the title shot, and he's the only man in the UFC to beat Gene Silva, and he also finished him. So it makes sense. Steve Garcia, he's older, 34. A lot of people have been fading him. He's already had some concerning losses in the UFC early by finish as well. So it makes sense. But I could see a world where Steve Garcia wins this fight. Diego Lopes minus 200. I guess he has submission upside. He hits hard. He has the better chin. But he is extremely hittable. He is extremely hittable. And Steve Garcia, this new, more patient Steve Garcia that fought against Calvin Kattar, David Onama, he doesn't force things. But when he hurts you, he'll finish you. He's still very aggressive, but he doesn't force things. He's got the high guard. He's a little bit more selective. He has good volume. It's not like he's all careful and low volume. He still pressures you, but picks his shots. And Diego Lopes is super, super hittable. His chin's great, but he has been knocked out before. And we've seen his legs kind of give out a little bit against Gene Silva in round 2. He basically ate every single strike that Gene Silva threw. And you could make the argument that Steve Garcia throws harder than Gene Silva, right? You could say Steve Garcia is one of the hardest hitters in the UFC. So from a betting perspective, the first thing that stuck out to me is this under 1.5 rounds, right? If you know me, I'm one of the best guys at under 1.5 rounds. I have like a 90% hit rate or something. When I used to track, I don't track my bets as much as anymore on BetMMA. But let's have a look at the odds on this card, right? So Lopes by KO, $3.60. Garcia, $3.80. Diego Lopes, round 1 KO, $6. I think he's live for a sub as well. Round 1 sub, $8.50. Garcia, round 1 KO, $6.50. These are some good odds. Under 1.5 rounds is what got my attention. It's plus money. Currently on Sportsbet, and I think on other books, it's plus money. And why is that the case? Probably because Lopes went to a decision a bunch of times, right? He went to a decision against Chini Volkanovski past his prime. He went to a decision with Brian Ortega and Dan Ige, right? The only guy who finished is Gene Silva, which is crazy. But Gene Silva kind of got too aggressive and walked into a spinning elbow. But that's probably why. Garcia, maybe you go back 3 fights ago, imagine where this under would be. Garcia just finishes a lot of guys as soon as he smells blood, and he's been finished himself. So under 1.5 rounds, plus money, this one stands out to me. I think both paths are covered, and you don't overcomplicate it. Doesn't go decision, doesn't go to distance, is almost minus 200. Fight ends in round 1 and 2 is $1.63, better than minus 200. All right, that gives you a little bit more time. Obviously, Diego Lopes versus Gene Silva ended in the second part of round 2. So yeah, under 1.5 rounds, or fight ends in round 1 or 2. There's some good options here, but I haven't locked it in yet. Bo Nickal versus Carl Daukaus. Interesting fight. Carl Daukaus, a big underdog here. Not long ago, he was on the regionals, begging to come back to the UFC. He's come back with 2 KOs over GM3, Pereira, and now they're putting him on the White House. Look, this is Bo Nickal hasn't really had much adversity in his UFC career. He's a massive favorite here. It makes sense. Even the last fight, this is the best guy that he's ever beaten, Rodolfo Vieira, but it's a jiu-jitsu guy that obviously is not going to be able to take him down with his wrestling credentials, and he has no power. He has a great jab in 1-2. His boxing's improved a lot, but he doesn't have the power, right? Renan Derrida put the swamp on him. He put himself in harm's way. He gave his neck. Bo Nickal went for a guillotine choke, and then he gassed himself out. Carl Daukaus is live to knock him out. He's flying high. He's got a lot of confidence. He could potentially give Bo Nickal more adversity. We don't really know what Bo Nickal's chin is like. Barely anyone has hit him, right, other than Renan Derrida, and that was to the body. He could potentially get something going around 1, but outside of that, Carl Daukaus has his own chin issues. I got knocked out by Eric Anders, of all people, Roman Dolidze as well. Phil Hawes beat him by out-wrestling him. Brendan Allen kept dropped him like in every single round. Daukaus was winning the grappling there, but Brendan Allen kept dropping him to steal the rounds with damage. So if you look at his regional scene when he got cut, like he's running through these bums. But Sean Connor Fallon, he's not a good fighter at all. And as soon as that fight extended, he kind of made a meal of it. And Sean Fallon was on top of him a lot. So that's the same issue here. I think with Bo Nickal, like he's got KO power, he's got good wrestling, so he can dictate where this fight goes. So if Bo Nickal wants this fight to be boring, he can make it boring, just like the Paul Craig fight. If he wants to be exciting, he can go for the KO. I think both guys can die. This fight to go to decision is big plus money. That's interesting. 137. I think that's a bit overrated. That should not be the same price as the Lopes Garcia fight goes to decision. That's a bit crazy to me. Bo Nickal KO. Let's have a look. $2.90. That's not bad. Carl Daukaus KO. $12.50. Wow, that's crazy. I do think that's his path. I don't think he'll be submitting Bo Nickal. The submission's obviously favored because Carl Daukaus loves his DAS. He's got 2 DASs in the UFC. One was a club and sub over GM3. Could have easily got a KO if he wanted. Carl Daukaus round 1 KO. $21. He's got a bunch since he got cut. And he's got potentially 2 in the UFC. So I would sprinkle that. Carl Daukaus round 1 KO just for shits and gigs. Like he's live if he comes out at Bo Nickal aggressively. This is at 1.5 rounds as well, right? Let me have a look. Yeah, but this, again, same prices, the Lopes versus Garcia, but this one doesn't really make sense. Over 1.5 rounds, $1.72. That makes sense. I think this should go over. Again, it just depends on Bo Nickal. How aggressive is he? Does he want to make a statement at the White House? Or is he scared to lose on such a big stage? Is he going to be a bit more patient? I'm not really interested in this fight. I'm just going to leave it. At this point in time, maybe later on in the week, there's more things to bet. Well, let's move on. Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. So kind of feel bad for Chandler. This feels like a squash match. Mauricio Ruffy, a gigantic favorite. And why is that? Because he has the touch of death. He has got, he's the Brazilian Conor McGregor, they say. Low hands, karate stance, loves his spinning wheel kicks, loves his pull counter. Extremely accurate. Extremely accurate. Just coming off a knockout, Rafael Fiziev, which, how many people can say they've done that? Gaethje went to war with him, hurt him a bunch, didn't knock him out. Outside of Rafael Fiziev, eating a spinning back kick in his UFC debut, that's really impressive. He got caught with a pull counter by Ruffy. And yeah, he's very, very durable. So now he's fighting Michael Chandler, who's been, knocked out by Paddy, by Charles Oliveira, submitted by Dustin Poirier, but he was hurt. Ate a lot of punishment to Justin Gaethje, but he didn't get knocked out, which is impressive. So he is tough. He is tough, but he's 40 and just the chin is getting more and more damage. At some point, I just feel like Ruffy can knock him out. But Michael Chandler is live to knock him out here. Chandler can crack. He hurt almost everyone. He almost knocked out Oliveira in round 1. He almost knocked out Gaethje in round 1. He knocked out Hooker in round 1. He knocked out Tony Ferguson in round 1. And he hurt Dustin Poirier. I think it was round 1. I didn't retape that one. So he will swing for the fences. He actually hurt Charles Oliveira in the rematch in round 5. So he carries his power late, even though it was a bit gassy. So Ruffy has suffered a knockout loss on the regionals to Sosa, who is now in the UFC. So it's another short, explosive guy that will swing bungalows. So it's possible. It's possible. If he's going to have his hands low, just trying to counter, Michael Chandler at 40 years of age, still super explosive, can knock anyone out. So there's a puncher's chance. Now, I did play, this is my first bet. It's very, very square, very chalky, but I'm pretty confident in it. It's basically, fight doesn't go decision at like $1.17 with another fight at a similar price that gives me $1.40. Like those 2 fights parlayed, not go the decision. Like it's a complete lock to me. Like I think both the fights could potentially end in round 1 or 2. So another 5-10 minutes for Ruffy to land his shot, his kill shot when Chandler's gassed, or whatever. So I got 1.5 units, 1.5k to win half a unit. It's whatever. I really could have bet a lot more on that, but it's one of those. It's one of those like lockish bets, like a low hanging fruit. The other 1.5 rounds, I honestly thought it would be a bit better. Sorry, worse price, $1.70. $1.66. Okay, so a little bit of money's coming in on it. These totals are out for a little bit longer than some of these other fights. But you see in Ruffy's fights, I played fight doesn't go round 3 against Benoit Saint-Denis because both of them finish a lot of their fights in the second half of round 2. And you see against Fiziev, second half of round 2, some of these fights extend longer. And as I said, Michael Chandler is tough, and you're probably going to need a kill shot to get him out of there. So, and that could potentially happen here. So I'm not so sure about the under 1.5 rounds, but it gives Michael Chandler his round 1 KO upside as well. So gun to my head, I would play it. I would play under 1.5 rounds. Fight to start round 3, no. $1.44, that's almost minus 200. I think you could play that as well, safely. But yeah, Mauricio Ruffy, very low volume. He looks for the kill shot. And Michael Chandler tough, and he could wrestle a bit. So things to look out for. But someone is dying no matter what. I don't think this fight is going to a decision. Hence why I parlayed that with another fight. Speaking of another fight, Derrick Lewis versus Josh Hokit. This is it. This is the fight that I parlayed to not go to decision. I mean, Derrick Lewis been finished how many times? Like the guy is just done. He's checked out. Like Waldo Costa finished him. Somehow Gelton Almeida didn't finish him. But yeah, he's just been finished a lot, man. Like Sergey Spivak took him down 9 times in round 1, ran through him in 3 minutes. Pavlovich 55 seconds. Tai Tuivasa of all people. Ciryl Gane finished him with body kicks. Like yeah, this guy gets finished. Junior Dos Santos under 1.5 rounds. Daniel Cormier under 1.5 rounds. Mark Hunt a little bit later, but still, there's no point going in depth. Like even if he doesn't, get submitted or knocked out on the feet, Josh Hokit can wrestle here and just get so many takedowns, one after another, like he did in his Denzel Freeman fight, like he did on the Contender Series. He took down Guillermo Uriel, and Uriel put up a bit of a fight. I think he's back on the next season's Contender Series, Guillermo Uriel, after winning an LFA. Put up a bit of a fight, stood up. They were both kind of tired. And then round 2, Josh Hokit, he's a small heavyweight. He's got that relentless wrestling cardio. He can go and go and go. Even if he goes to round 2 and Derrick Lewis doesn't time an uppercut or something like he did in the Curtis Blades fight, Hokit's going to get another single, take him down again. Derrick Lewis is either going to keep getting up, getting tired and tired, eating uppercuts from Turtle on the way up, or he's just going to give up and lay on his back, and Hokit's just going to ground and pound him, or he's just going to lay on him, and maybe he'll go into round 3. But Hokit, man, you see the guy has no regard for his safety. He almost got knocked out by Curtis Blades because he just came in there brawling. He's there for excitement. So I don't trust the guy to parlay him. I don't trust that he's actually going to want to wrestle Lewis. But at the same time, I think what I did against Curtis Blades was smart. I think he's a much smaller heavyweight. He would have wasted his energy wrestling Blades. And he knows that many people have knocked out Curtis Blades in round 1. So I think he chose a smart path there. He's like, I'm going to knock out Curtis Blades. I'm going to get out of there in round 1, just like others. But when he backfired and he almost got knocked out himself, he showed heart, he showed resilience, and he still beat Blades, beat the crap out of him, and he still almost knocked him out in the other 2 rounds. So Derrick Lewis ain't surviving that. But at the same time, Josh Hokit isn't surviving the damage that Blades landed on him if it's coming from Derrick Lewis. So I think Derrick Lewis has the KO path. That's the only way he wins this. I think Hokit has the KO path, and he has the takedown upside and just completely run through Lewis through cardio death. I played fight ends in KO, $1.65. It's better than the under 1.5 rounds, which has now been steamed to minus 200. It's a little bit scary to play that because, as I said, Josh Hokit might need a nutritional takedown path. Takedown, rinse and repeat, takedown, rinse and repeat. Derrick Lewis might be hard to hold down early, especially because he outweighs Hokit by so much. And Hokit might just have to sit on him, throw some weak ground and pound shots, wear on him. And then the finish might come in the second half of round 2, right? So fight and KO, it's a better price, and you have 15 minutes. Josh Hokit KO him in end of round 2 or round 3. So I like that. I only put half a unit. It's so early, and I'm adding little bets, and I might add another half unit to the fight ends in KO. I'm adding, but I'm gonna have a few bets on the fight and on this card. Hokit by KO, also plus money. I mean, I think that's his path. There's a little bit of a risk that he could be a sub. Hokit does have a few subs. His jiu-jitsu seems quite good for a wrestler. Most of his regional wins are by sub. But I think now that he's in the UFC, it's much harder to sub guys. People can get up. Lewis has traditionally been very hard to sub. He's got like 2 submission losses. The first one was DC, and no one could really do that to him. No one could really rear naked choke him until DC came along, and then survived 5 rounds with Almeida on top of him. And yeah, the Spivak arm triangle really seemed like a quick job. So Josh Hokit KO is plus money. Again, that's a good way to turn Hokit's $1.26 money line into plus. You really just have to fade, hope that Lewis doesn't KO. Lewis KO, $4.60. He carries power late. We've seen him get wrestled and then get a KO late. Lewis KO on $6. But yeah, this is the fight that I parlayed with the half he doesn't go decision. $1.14, $1.20. He might have moved a bit. So I win half a unit there and almost a half a unit if the fight ends in KO. Let's move on. Sean O'Malley versus Aiemann Zahabi. Look, I don't want to spend too much time on this one. This is another squash match, but in terms of what I like to bet on it, I'm not too sure. I think Sean O'Malley is a parlay piece. If you're that type of person, like it's a little bit square, but is Sean O'Malley going to lose to Aiemann Zahabi? Look, he's the same price as Hokit or around there. Let me just have a look. Okay, this fight's not even on Sportsbet anymore, but it was around $1.25, $1.30. I think that's safe. I mean, Aiemann Zahabi's best win is Jose Aldo, and he really hard in that. Just knocked him out, survived, and then he put on Aldo to steal the fight. Like for an old man, 38, he's got great cardio. He showed he has got a good chin, but he's just, he still went to a split decision with Marlon Vera. He got dropped in that fight. He got dropped in Jose Aldo fight. Sean O'Malley doesn't really gas. He's had how many 5-round title fights now? Still carries his power late. He can keep up with the volume. Like, he's not really someone that Zahabi is going to stunt with his feints. He's not going to make him throw low. And even if he does, Sean O'Malley's a master of winning fights that are low output, right? We just seen him throw the bare minimum against Song Yadong and still separated and still won, even though Song grappled. So This is Sean O'Malley's fight. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get a decision because you never know with Sean O'Malley. Fights look really, really low output or low volume until he just lands a big knee or something. So let's move on. But I think he wins. Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Good fight. I'm kind of sick of Ciryl Gane being in title fights. What is this now? Lewis, then John Jones, then Aspinall, and then Pereira. He's got 4 title shots. It's crazy. And he's been in title eliminations with Volkov and robbed Volkov there. But yeah, I mean, there's no one else, right? Aspinall's out. There's no one else to give this title shot to. So Pereira's moving up to heavyweight for the first time. I initially thought Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane at Pick'em, right? He's extremely fast for a heavyweight. Pereira is not fast. He wasn't really that fast at light heavyweight. His chin was there to be hit. We saw Khalil Roundtree like lighting him up eventually until he got tired and Pereira came on strong. We saw, Uncle Ive hurt him on the feet at light heavyweight. Like the guy fights with hands low. And yeah, just Ciryl Gane, extremely, extremely fast. And after a bit of tape, I'm like, I don't know, Ciryl Gane is not as good with his defense as I remember. Like he can be hit. We see Volkov drop him in the rematch a couple of times with a spinning back fist and land some other stuff, although he had a broken toe and he did look a bit compromised in that fight. But the thing is, Pereira, he's going to aggressively pressure and Cyryl's going to have to get on his bike. This is different. This is different when people just stand in the middle with Ciryl and go jab for jab, right, or leg kick for leg kick. Pereira's going to come at him and he's going to put the panic on him and it's going to force him to throw something to gain the respect. And that's when Pereira's going to look for a counter over his jab or over his calf kick. But he will eat a lot of shots because he would pressure easy and would pressure a lot of these guys and he would just not really let his hands go. So Pereira can be low volume for long stretches of the fight. So I don't know, after tape and minimum tape, I should say, it just kind of feels like Pick'em is accurate here. I don't know how Pereira's going to look at heavyweight. I looked at his boxing and his kickboxing fights. From my recollection, recently, the heaviest he's been in glory was at heavyweight was 210. So yes, that's officially heavyweight, but it's only 5 pounds over the light heavyweight limit. So I think he's coming in now 230 or 240. He's bulked up a lot to do this properly. And he looks a bit chunky. He looks like he has too much weight. Obviously, he's going through a training camp now. He's going to lose a bit of weight. He's going to do more cardio. As the fight approaches, he's going to eat better. But he looks a bit slow. He looks even slower than usual. But the caveat on that is it's probably going to hit a lot harder heavyweight. Like this is one guy that his power will definitely transition to this weight class. I have no issues at all about that. So it's a weird fight. I don't know what to do. Like I think Ciryl Gane has a good round 1. He picks up, rounds 2, 3. He really gets going when he makes his reads. But so does Pereira. Pereira's very hittable in round 1. But then rounds 2, 3, 4, he keeps coming. And if you don't knock him out, he just keeps building and building. And the pressure wears on you. The calf kicks wear on you. So interesting fight. Both these guys are just going to get better and better as the fight goes on. And maybe Pereira won't a heavyweight. I don't know. So pick him. I'm not really interested. I'm going to do more tape on this. See how we go. And Ilia Topuria, Justin Gaethje. I taped this one just because the under 2.5 rounds stuck out at me. It was minus 200. I was like, look, if Ilia doesn't knock him out in round 1 or round 2, because I don't necessarily think he'll be that quick. I think round 3, it should surely happen, right? Even really durable guys like Max Holloway, they were done in before the 2.5 minute mark. And at that point, Max Holloway was never knocked out. And he first damaged him with calf kicks, which Justin Gaethje has elite calf kicks, but we saw recently he's not really checking them. He didn't really check him against Paddy Pimblett or Rafael Fiziev, and Paddy Pimblett kind of stopped throwing him because Gaethje put on the pressure, and Paddy Pimblett, complete different fighter. Backs up against the cage, chin up in the air, really horrible amateurish defense. Whereas Ilia Topuria, high level boxing, low stance, high guard. Justin Gaethje is going to have a high guard himself, but he's completely open to the body shots from Ilia Topuria, which I reckon he can hurt him to the body, he can hurt him to the head. I mentioned Michael Chandler hurt Gaethje in round 1. Charles Oliveira dropped him a couple times in round 1. Like, this guy's been hurt a lot. Michael Johnson almost knocked him out in round 1 in his debut, UFC debut. Eddie Alvarez and Poirier got him out of there rounds 3 and 4. So Gaethje is incredibly tough, but he can be hurt. Topuria has a different level of power, and he also has submission upside. I think he can take down Gaethje and submit him if he wants the easy path. He's not the easiest guy to take down, Gaethje. Like, he put up a great fight against Khabib back in the day. He's great at scrambling. He's got that wrestling background. If you take him down, he instantly pops back up, unless you're Charles Oliveira and you can, just jump up to the back, get the triangle or something. Topuria could. Topuria took down Max Holloway as well in round 2 or round 1, I think, and Max Holloway worked his way up. So I'm not too sure, but I mean, it's hard not to see Topuria putting it on Gaethje and just breaking him, because even against Paddy Pimblett, it looked like in certain moments Gaethje really hated the strikes. It looked like his nose was breaking, bleeding. He really didn't like it. If Paddy Pimblett wasn't so beaten up, he maybe could have swamped Gaethje there. But also Paddy is nowhere near Topuria. So yeah, I see some people playing, Topuria KO, that's okay. You know, gives you 5 rounds. It's minus 200, but the sub is the risk for me. Topuria round 1 KO, I don't really like it. I don't think it's going to happen that early. Round 2 KO, 450. Round 3 KO, 7. Yeah. As the rounds go on, the prices get bigger. I would rather play the later rounds. Topuria round 1 and 2. Topuria KO, round 2, 3. Pick him. That's nice. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Much better than the other 2.5 rounds. The over 1.5 rounds is minus money. The under is plus money. That makes sense. Even the bookies don't think this is going to end in under 1.5 rounds. Topuria round 4, 5 a decision. That doesn't seem very likely. Fight to end within 3 rounds. $1.30. Maybe that's a parlay piece. I played all these kind of things against Charles Oliveira. Like it was almost like a max bet. But Charles Oliveira is known to be knocked out. He's a lot worse with his defense. So, well, this is what it is. I'll leave this one and I'll just wait. I'll see how the week progresses and there'll be something there, some sort of totals. This has to be a violence card. They're fighting in front of Donald J. Trump, right, the president. So we'll see. So just a little overview. Lopes or Garcia. Look, we got to go with some unders, but Garcia by KO, it could be. He's live, you know, minus 200 on Lopes. I get it, but Daukaus for me. I'd rather play some unders, which correlate with both, and it's plus money. Nickal Daukaus, not really interested in this fight. I guess you could parlay Nickal. I wouldn't mind some Daukaus KO1, big price. Huffy doesn't go to decision with Derrick Lewis, doesn't go to decision. 1.5k to win 500. Just a little square parlay. Maybe the under 1.5 rounds in Huffy, Chandler. Hokit, fight ends in KO. I could add some more. It's better than the under 1.5 rounds. You're basically just fading Hokit by submission. Sean O'Malley should win. I guess there's a parlay piece there. Pereira Gane, interesting one. Gane, how's he going to handle the pressure from a big Pereira? He might actually weigh the same as Gane on fight night. And Topuria at the point, when exactly, not too sure, but we'll see. So that's it. By the time this is released, I'll probably have a lot more bets. So hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Discord if you are in the Discord, or even in the comments, and we'll go from there. We'll make some money. Like and subscribe.